It's that time of year where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lily Putt is open for the season, and you know what that means. Lily Putt is known for its mini golf, go-karts, glow golf, jump pads, kiddie carts, gem mining, and even a new arcade. Lily Putt also has interactive and engaging escape rooms like the Haunted Mansion, the Bunker, or Night of the Wolf. Lily Putt is perfect for parties and group events. Stop by lilyputt.net for more information and hours of operation.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is Ghostbox Radio with Greg Bakken.
And this is Ghostbox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakken. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. So it's interesting because this has been something that I had only, our topic tonight is something that I've only really have given any thought of relatively recently, probably since September, October of last year. I never even thought about this. And as soon as I thought was presented with the idea that there could have been Civil War soldiers who may have in some way recorded some sightings of Bigfoot, I found that to be very interesting. And my guest tonight, it just so happened, who this is kind of really what he does, quite frankly, and we're going to get into that here in a second. He did, I think, a program about this, and I really wanted to kind of talk about it because I want to understand a few things. I have some questions, and I just want to hear what kind of history recorded on this. I've done some research about it, but I think that there's more to learn and more to find out about. I'm very happy to have this conversation tonight, and I'm really looking forward to it. We are going to be talking tonight about Bigfoot sightings during the Civil War, and my guest tonight is Lon Strickler, and Lon is a Fortean researcher, author, and publisher of the syndicated Phantom and Monsters blog. He began the blog in 2005, which has steadily grown in popularity and is read daily by tens of thousands of paranormal enthusiasts, investigators, and those seeking the truth. His research and reports have been featured on hundreds of online media sources. Several of these published reports have been presented on various television segments, including History Channel's Ancient Aliens, Sci-Fi, Paranormal Witness, Fact or Fake, Paranormal Files, and Destination America's Monster and Mysteries in America. He has been interviewed on hundreds of radio and online broadcasts, including multiple appearances on Coast to Coast AM. He is also featured on Destination America's Monsters and Mysteries in America. And Lon has written 9 books and is currently the host of Phantoms and Monsters Radio on YouTube. Lon was born and raised in South Central Pennsylvania near the Gettysburg National Military Park and Battlefield. After living in Baltimore, Maryland metro area for 40 years, he eventually moved back to his hometown in 2016. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Lon, welcome to Ghostbox Radio.
Hey, how you doing? Good. It's good to be here.
Well, I appreciate you coming on here. It's a little bit later. I don't know if you're a late person, if you stay up late or not. It's a little bit later. You're on the East Coast, right? So
yeah.
Sorry about that. I really appreciate that, though. I was actually on one of our shows earlier today as I was talking with Matt McNeil, who hosts the 3 to 5 show, and I had mentioned what I wanted to talk about tonight. He's like, you got to come on. And it was funny because he said something I thought was really kind of funny. He's like, I don't remember this being discussed in the Ken Burns Civil War documentary. And it's like, no, it hasn't been. That would, and unfortunately, as much as I like Ken Burns, that would have probably added like 4 more episodes to the thing anyway. But where I I don't even know where to begin, because there's this whole area of like, there's been sightings and stuff, but because it's so far back, Lon, it's not really something that we can really look at with 100% certainty, is it? Or am I wrong on that?
Well, there were some accounts in some of the newspapers back then, but most of the accounts or reports have actually come from soldiers' letters back to home. In fact, I had one. I used to collect a lot of Civil War stuff, and I had a collection of several hundred Civil War soldier letters to home. And the one that I did come across was a short mention by a Union soldier in Western Virginia, who, and I don't even remember the fort. It just may have been a stockade, but they had a storage room or someplace they were keeping food and such. And this, what they called a wild man, broke into it. And they were talking about that, and he described it as being man-sized, maybe larger, but very muscular, and had a lot of hair all over its body. And most of the witness reports back then were described as wild men. They didn't know what they were looking at. They just thought it was something unusual. It was probably a feral human who had a lot of hair and was out foraging for food. And that's mostly what you got. But occasionally, and look, the newspapers back in that era, they kind of embellished on everything. And some of the reports were a little interesting, but most of the time they chalked it up as being either a wild man or somebody who just had a lot of hair and just didn't look exactly human.
So when you first came across it, was let me back up. The term Bigfoot came sometime after the Civil War anyway, right? So I mean, there isn't any sort of there isn't anything around that people are like, oh, that's a Bigfoot, oh, that might be some kind of Sasquatch. I mean, it's there. That's not even viable at that point.
Yeah, I mean, the native people used the Sasquatch term or whatever term their tribe used, but as far as Bigfoot goes, no, that wasn't even part of the nomenclature until the late 60s. And then that's when it started taking off and people started paying attention. And then, of course, you had shows like In Search Of and other shows that came on who talked about it. And, of course, when the Patterson-Gimlin film came out and started making the rounds, people became more and more interested in it. You don't run into a lot of people who actually looked into the phenomena before the 60s. There were a few back in the 50s, but very few.
When you first heard about possible sightings during the Civil War, was it when you came across those letters, or did you hear about it before that?
I had heard a few things about it. I wasn't even involved with any type of Bigfoot or cryptid activity until I had an encounter myself back in 81. And that's when I started getting interested in it. I knew about the Bigfoot phenomena, and it interested me, but I was more into hauntings and I'm an intuitive, and I have done clairsentient, and I have done cases locally for many years. I started back when I was in high school, back in the early 70s. So I was kind of involved with this, but not by my own accord. It was just happenstance, and I got interested. But no, in 1981, I had a Bigfoot encounter in Sykesville, Maryland, or outside of Sykesville, Maryland. And after that occurred, I became very interested. I wanted to know what it was I saw. I thought it may have been a Bigfoot, but I wasn't really quite sure.
Well, and so you talk about in these some of these letters that soldiers talk about big hairy men, and do you think that there was because I mean I don't know if how many of the stuff was like maybe around like the Appalachian Mountains and stuff where we've always kind of heard terms of like I don't want to say missing tribe or anything like that, but like it's different over there. Was there any thought that it maybe isn't? Maybe it couldn't be a cryptid at all. Maybe there is like an insight to a different kind of breed of man that is wandering.
I think that's what they thought it was. Now I had run across a report as early as the French and Indian War period of a wild man, and that was out near Fort Pitt, actually, in western Pennsylvania. And but there have been. I mean, this phenomena has been around a long time, but of course, it's not like it is now, and people just didn't know what they were looking at. And of course, when you're fighting a battle and such, you've got other things to worry about. So they saw it and probably thought about it a bit and just kind of let it go.
I had read one account that, of course, I cannot find, so it's going to be all paraphrased and probably horribly wrong, of that there were some, I believe it was Union troops who were kind of trapped by these wild men at one point, and they didn't know what they were. They knew that they weren't Confederate soldiers. Have you heard of anything like that?
I haven't heard of anything specific, though I do know of one instance, and it's very vague, at the Battle of the Wilderness in Virginia, where there may have been either a tribe or a group of these creatures who had, because of the firefight, I guess they got scared and such, and they seemed to be fairly aggressive toward a platoon of artillery, Union soldiers, and but it wasn't a whole lot. It was one of those things that later on, as these guys got older, and I think the report actually came out in the 1890s, that somebody had made mention of it, a newspaper reporter. So that's when that came out, but it was very vague. But yeah, it supposedly had happened at the Wilderness, the Battle of the Wilderness.
Well, and I've run across one here that Battle of Shiloh in Tennessee in 1862. Some of the stories is report details soldiers claim to hear howls, scream, and heavy bipedal movement in the woods at night. Some accounts described a large hairy figure watching camps from tree lines. Troops reportedly fire into the darkness without clear effect. And the sounds are said to frighten both men and horses. It's I can't imagine either what that's like, because as you said, there's a lot bigger things that they have to worry about right now. And I can't imagine that what this is like part of it too, is like, is this some kind of enemy situation that's trying to throw them off as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that could have been what they were thinking. There had been several sightings in Tennessee around the Cumberland Mountains and such.
Yeah.
I knew the one in Shiloh that some of the soldiers had taken shots at. But other than that, most of the time they thought they were just bears they were dealing with.
Yeah.
Someone would be on picket duty for the most part, and they'd see a man that was taller than any other man they'd ever seen, dark as a bear, and kind of moving upright through the timber. And they started shooting at it, and they didn't know what they were dealing with. I mean, you got to wonder what they were thinking. And of course, at the same battle, a Confederate soldier had mentioned later on about a mountain giant. That's what he called it.
Interesting.
That was screaming and hollering after dark. And, we've heard a few stories as well before the Battle of Gettysburg up in South Mountain area, where most of the Confederate army, the army of the of Northern Virginia, were were camping out before the first day at Gettysburg, before they came into Gettysburg. And there was some mention of howling and not knowing what they were listening to. Some thought they were wolves, but others thought there was just something different. And they didn't really know what they were dealing with. Now, there was no mention of any sightings, but they were a little freaked out by all the howling.
Well, and you gotta wonder. I mean, Gettysburg itself, the battlefields especially, is its own space of strangeness, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then that is, I don't say that to lessen what happened there, because it's incredible. It's an incredible place. And kind of switching gears a little bit, Lon, do you think, because I think the fact that there could be like Bigfoot entities and other things in that area, and I truly believe that there's some kind of, spirits that are in there as well. Do you think that possibly could have been the situation there prior to the battles taking place?
It could have been. It's an area that holds a lot of energy, let alone there being a battle, for a 3-day battle where there was a lot of loss of life and imprints on the geography and other such. There had been a lot of ghost sightings in that area before the Civil War, and there had been mention from farmers and stuff seeing things. Bigfoot has been seen on that battlefield up until even recently. There have been other entities and other phenomena there as well. If you just go west of Gettysburg in the area of the Micho State Forest, which is along Route 30, there's a lot of Bigfoot encounters there and sightings and a lot of evidence, but there's other stuff as well. So, we're kind of lucky here in South Central Pennsylvania because we kind of run into a lot of different things, and it kind of keeps us busy. Pennsylvania and Maryland in particular, if you're, go south of Gettysburg, you're in Maryland in 10 minutes, and everywhere along Route 15, going south into Frederick, along the Catoctin Mountains, and also Camp David is there as well.
That's right.
There's a lot of phenomena that happens in those woods and in those valleys.
God, it's incredible. Lon, I need to take a break here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and take our break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation. We're talking about Bigfoot sightings during the Civil War, but we're probably going to open it up a little bit because there's so much to talk about. I want to talk about some of Lon's experiences as well, plus any questions that you have. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Ghostbox Radio on AM 950. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned, community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all backgrounds and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstonempls.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. Greg Bakken here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. Greg Bakken here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. And I think I said this yesterday, but I want to also remind people, if you're hungry, make sure you head on out to Maverick's Roast Beef. I went there Saturday. Oh, that was good. That was good. If you have not gone out there yet, please do yourself a favor. It's a lot of fun. It's good food. If you are not quite into the roast beef sandwiches, they have a lot of different foods. They have fish, they have chicken, and everything is made scratch to order. You do want to check that out. Go to Mavericks off of Lexington in Roseville. We are talking with Lon Strickler. We're talking about Bigfoot sightings during the Civil War. But before we get back to any of that, I want to talk to Lon because he does this incredible blog and site, Phantoms and Monsters. You can go to phantomsandmonsters.com, and it's all sorts of great content there. Lon, how long have you been doing this site?
This is the 21st year.
Gosh. And this all stemmed from that Bigfoot sighting that you experienced in 80, 81?
That was just part of it. I had been, ever since I was young, I was writing, reports and such from people in a notebook and whatever, before the internet, and taking recordings from people who had encounters. I would go down to Florida, say, for several weeks, and I'd kind of stop on the roadsides and talk to people, and something would come up and I'd talk to them about it. It was a lot of different things, but I kept a lot of stories for almost, I guess, about 25 years until I just decided to start. I worked on another blog with somebody else's blog, and then eventually I just started my own in 2005. So that's when I kind of got into it as doing a daily blog and, just kind of doing one story at a time. And I've been doing that fairly steady now for almost 20 years.
Well, looking at the published dates on some of these articles, sometimes you'll have multiple articles in a day.
Yeah, I usually do about 4 a day.
Gosh, God, that's great. Where do you get your information? Do people send you stuff?
I'd say about 80% is from witnesses, and then I talk to other investigators and researchers, and somebody will mention something to me, and I'll go in and start doing a little research and get a story out of it and go from there.
I would suspect that over 21 years of doing this, people when they encounter something, you're going to be one of the first people they want to reach out to, aren't you?
I guess they are. I do get a lot of reports. I guess I average about 25 reports a week that come either into the website or somebody calls me or, somebody will send me an email. Especially if we're into doing a phenomena that a lot of people are interested in. We were lucky and got involved with the Chicago Mothman phenomena very early on. And there was 3 sightings in 2011, then it kind of slacked off. Nothing was going on. Nobody was saying anything. But in 2017, it exploded. And it's been fairly busy. I've been fairly busy with that up until about a year and a half ago. Every once in a while now we'll get one that'll leak in. It's usually an older story, but nothing really in real time. But we had about 186 reports that we felt were valid reports in the Chicagoland area. And talking about Minnesota, I mean, we've had several reports in Minnesota as well. So the upper Midwest is very active.
So the last commercial we played in the last break was the Anderson House, and that's in Wabasha, Minnesota, which butts up to the Mississippi River. And what we did an event over there, and then we walked from the Anderson to the river, which is about, roughly 2 blocks, not even that much. And we started to kind of call out to the other side, which would be Wisconsin then, calling out and playing audio of what we would understand would be like Bigfoot howls and stuff like that. And we started getting tree knocking happening on that side. And then also something made a big splash in the river right in front of us. And we're not sure what it could just very well be a fish, but it was massive. And it was a very interesting thing. And absolutely, we get a lot of interesting stuff, and a lot of us like to go out and do it as well. And folks, I want to just say, phantomsandmonsters.com. I'm just even today, there's Bigfoot articles, there is UFO articles, other cryptid articles that are being reptilian humanoids, which has always been one of my favorite, the old reptile. You got to check this out. This is truly wonderful. As the byline for the page is, explore true cryptid encounters, unexplained scary experiences, and real eyewitness reports. Once again, phantomsandmonsters.com. And then you do a radio show as well on the same subject.
Yeah, I do a live show every Friday night. And mostly what I do now, I used to do a lot of interviews, but it's mostly me writing out a script and talking about the cases that people send me and some of the things I have researched, some of the encounters I've had, some of the investigations we've done. It just depends what I feel like doing that week. And, start digging into older reports and start piecing stuff together. So, it's basically what we do now. But it's on YouTube. It's Phantoms and Monsters Radio. So if you search that, you'll find it.
That is awesome. That's awesome. And you mentioned something about, piecing things together with old reports and stuff. Do you get that on occasion, where you might get maybe reports maybe from the same area, maybe from different periods of time, but what you end up with is realizing that maybe these are connected? Then before, if you just looked at them by themselves, maybe you wouldn't have seen that.
Right. Yeah, we get a lot of that. There are a lot of hot areas, especially in the United States and Canada, where there's similar phenomena, even different phenomena occurs in the same area. So I try to take that in consideration when I'm going back into the archives and pulling things up. And it's pretty popular as far as that goes.
Oh, I bet. That sounds absolutely incredible. In the comments, Laura left a couple comments. She says, I seen a kid Bigfoot walking around a pond at Shreve Marsh. Then she also says, I've never thought about Bigfoot or aliens in Civil War. It's there. And there was actually a really good, I thought it was really good episode of Ancient Aliens where they talked about aliens encountered with, there's a couple, one with presidents, but the other with the founding fathers, that I thought was a really interesting concept. Whether or not I believe everything that the episode presents, that's another thing. But the idea of some of that is really interesting as well. Because, that's kind of the premise of the show, right? That they're trying to make a case that basically everything that we've ever learned and know how to do as humanity has some kind of alien beginning to it.
Yeah, it's interesting when you go back into a newspaper archive and start searching phenomena, especially like when people see something in the sky, they don't know what it is. And occasionally somebody will mention that they saw small humans or whatever. And it occasionally pops up, not as much as it does now, but most time people just kind of kept quiet about it, just fearing that people would think they're nuts. So, every once in a while something will pop up from old, but it's very rare.
Dave, you mentioned you had a Bigfoot experience. Have you ever had any alien experiences?
I did. I had had an abduction encounter back in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I really haven't talked a whole lot about it over the years, but I do believe that I was gone from home for about 5 hours. I was taken aboard a ship where there was 3 tall, what you call grays, I guess. They were,
Sure.
very tall and thin beings that communicated, mind talk, mind speak. I was talking, but they weren't. But I was literally picking up what they were either thinking or trying to project to me. And it was interesting. There's a lot of that I still don't remember even after all these years. And sometimes something occasional come up where I hadn't thought about it. I have worked with experiencers for many, many years, especially those who have been abducted. And there are a lot of people that will have an encounter, don't think a whole lot about it, kind of forget most of it. They know something happened, but 20, 30 years later, it'll, for whatever reason, something will remind them of it, or it just pops up, and then they want to know what happened. So, I have worked with a lot of people over the years as far as possible alien encounters and abduction.
It's interesting because next question I was going to ask you if you had, if you have any implants. And the reason why I bring it up is because I believe that there's been something similar that had happened to me. And there's a whole reason to firmly believe it, because I was using communication tools to try to reach out to them. And, I'm also an intuitive. So there's stuff that happened that led to that. And I had long suspected that I was taken that night. And I was talking to someone else who works in, with different dimensions and holograms and that sort of workspace. And she had asked me, she said, did you have any implants? And I'm like, well, no, I didn't. And then it suddenly hit me. I'm like, I have, and you're not going to be able to see it, I have something on my arm on both sides that are similar. It's just one of those things, though, like you just said, I never thought about it. And then it hit me like, I really wonder if that's what those are, because that's the time that they showed up, I noticed. But I mean, it wasn't like the next day, it just happened. Did you have anything like that for yourself?
The only thing that I ever noticed was when I was younger. And I think this has probably been going on with me for a long time, but I don't remember any when I was younger. But I had a scoop mark literally taken off my belly, where they took maybe a small scoop of flesh. And that morning when I woke up, I noticed it, but it was all healed over. But I still have the divot in my stomach, my belly.
Sure.
So, that's one thing. I don't know if I've got anything else. I don't really know. But I do talk to a lot of people who do find a lot of unusual markings on their bodies, designs, who have had encounters where they believe that they have been experimented on, and very vivid a lot of times. And as well as I have worked with several females who had been pregnant and had lost their pregnancies after the first trimester. And in fact, I had a lady I was working with several years ago who had it happen to her 4 times, where
Wow.
she had going, they had the ultrasounds and everything, and there was proof that she was pregnant. And the next, one day later, after about 3 or 4 months, she thought she had experienced something, and it turns out the fetus is gone. So, that happens. And I have had several cases that I have been involved with that. So, there's something going on. There's no doubt about it. I mean, not everybody can be telling a similar story like this. Even people who have no idea that this phenomena exists or is talked about. So a lot of them eventually find me, and I try to help them with the best I can.
Something I always thought too, and you kind of allude to it as well, talking about who knows how long this has been going on for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea that I don't think that these things are ever one-offs, regardless of how innocular it seems to be, where it doesn't really seem to be a whole lot. Maybe we don't even know. Maybe something happened. Maybe I was taken. I don't know. But my personal opinion is that it keeps happening, and it may even be like your family lineage that it happens. Like they are taking your family. Yeah. You just don't know it. They don't know it.
Yeah, there's a lot of generational similarities between, possible abductions, grandparents, children, grandchildren. It does happen. Why that is, I don't know. I don't know if there's a something that's genetic about them that makes them more susceptible to having encounters or being abducted or whatever. But that there's a lot of theories out there. I don't really subscribe to many of them, but when I was researching my book Alien Disclosure, it was there's a few things in there that just kind of popped up that kind of seemed very similar to what a lot of the abductees had experienced themselves. And it makes you wonder, but if there's no proof, it's all anecdotal for the most part. So you're kind of left hanging to kind of come up with your own conclusions.
Absolutely. Laura in the comments says, I have UFOs caught on camera. I take pics of skies and caught a lot of different things. I see stars moving in skies. I'll have to explain someday, but a star taking some steps. Never thought any of them putting implants in me. She wonders if she's been abducted. She doesn't know. Real fast, I want to see, do I have a picture? Okay, I'm going to put a picture up on the screen here for you, Lon, because this is a craft that, a situation that a friend of mine, John, and I saw at his house out in Wisconsin, where the night is very clear. We're not by a city. And basically we kept seeing like a hole like that, where it almost looked like in up in the sky, where energy is kind of being sucked into it, but then crafts are leaving. They're leaving the hole, and they're dropping a little bit, and they're flying off.
Yeah, that's an excellent illustration. I have a lot of people who have mentioned possible gateways, wormholes, or even interdimensional portals where craft come in and out from possibly other dimensions or other universes and such. But yeah, it's very similar to what you have drawn there. And yeah, people do mention it. Absolutely. It's just another something that we just don't really know what's going on. And I don't necessarily believe that there's a craft or species that are going interstellar and coming into our space here in our solar system for the sake of just coming here. And but then again, we don't know. I mean, there could be a mass transportation system that we just have no idea what's going on with it.
We counted from the time that my friend John noticed it, and he's like, take a look up there, and I'm looking, and it took me a couple minutes to find it because there's a lot of stars, and then when you see it, you're like, oh my gosh. And by the time I saw it, we counted, and we stopped counting at about 80 coming out. And that's and who knows what that is. And I do want to quickly say, that's not my image. I found it, and it's something that it just completely illustrated what we saw, and I've never seen really anyone else put that. That's why I always keep it in my StreamYard there, because it's just so incredible to share. Why don't we do this? I need to take another break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about your Bigfoot experience, if you're okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then some other questions I have. If anyone has any questions, put in your comments as well. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Ghostbox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakken here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com. Greg Bakken here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all backgrounds and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstoneMPLS.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. It's that time of year where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lily Putt is open for the season, and you know what that means. Lily Putt is known for its mini golf, go-karts, glow golf, jump pads, kiddie carts, gem mining, and even a new arcade. Lily Putt also has interactive and engaging escape rooms like the Haunted Mansion, the Bunker, or Night of the Wolf. Lily Putt is perfect for parties and group events. Stop by lilyputt.net for more information and hours of operation. Greg Bakken here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. And join me tomorrow on Ghostbox Radio with Greg Bakken. Keeping the spirit of things, it's a Just Greg episode tomorrow. It's just going to be me, and I'm going to be talking about my trip to Gettysburg a number of years ago. I drove out there, and it was probably one of the most haunted trips I've ever taken. I want to explain everything from the shadow figures that were in the place I was staying at, which was built in 1855, to wisps of energy, to rolling fog, to phantom cannonballs, all sorts of things. It's truly that's what cemented Gettysburg as probably one of my favorite places I've ever gone to investigate and just be able to explore. A lot to talk about tomorrow, so please do not miss it. I have with me Lon Strickler. We were talking about we're talking about a lot of things. I mean, we started off talking about Bigfoot sightings during the Civil War, but also talking about aliens, other Bigfoot sightings, other things. And I invite you to go check out his blog over at phantomsandmonsters.com. New content is updated every day. You'll want to also go to YouTube and check out Phantoms and Monsters Radio that he hosts every Friday. It's this is like reports from, in the weeds. This is the stuff that you want to read, and it's updated multiple times a day. So you do want to go check that out. Lon, I want to ask you about your Bigfoot Bigfoot sighting that have you only had one, or has there been multiple?
That's the only Bigfoot sighting I had.
So what happened, if you don't mind telling us?
Yeah, it was the date was May 9th, 1981, outside of Sykesville, Maryland, which is about 15 miles west of Baltimore. I actually lived in town, but I had lived there maybe about 3 or 4 years after I graduated from high school. So I used to do a lot of fly fishing up and down the East Coast. So there were some spots in Maryland where I used to go local. If I didn't have a whole lot of time, I would just go there. So on the south branch of Patapsco River, which was just about a mile east of mile east of Sykesville, I used to do a lot of smallmouth fishing with a fly rod. So I'd be out there in the fly rod. And this area where I was at, it was just a small branch, the south branch of the river itself, and not very big. So I had been there many times before. So I was out in the river. I had my waders and such on. I was standing there fly casting, and on the north shore, I noticed, and it wasn't that far from me, about 40, 50 feet, I noticed a dog. He was just walking in around the weeds and such, and I didn't pay him much mind, so I just went back to doing what I was doing until I heard the dog yelp, and he let out a loud yelp, and I looked up, and I looked across the way, and in these tall weeds, I saw this thing stand up. I don't know if it had been resting in there or what it was, but it stood up, and it was huge. I mean, the weeds kind of came up waist, but the weeds themselves were about 4 or 5 foot high.
Jeez.
And it was hairy. That's all I can say. It was hairy. It was human-like or humanoid-like. And I just watched it a second, and it started walking to my left or to its right and walked out of the weeds onto the bank of the river. And it stood there, and we just locked eyes on each other, and we were very close. We were about 40 foot away. And this thing was looking at me, making a clicking sound. Like, I think what it was doing is gnashing its teeth. I don't know if that was a response to seeing me looking at it or noticing me, but we just looked at each other. I mean, I didn't know what I was looking at, basically. Honestly, it was about, I figured about 7.5 to 8 foot in height. It was very hairy, long, shaggy hair all up and down the body. The legs had a lot of mud caked to it. Definitely male. I could see the genitalia on this thing. And the head was conical, but it looked more human than it did look like an ape.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, maybe it wasn't Bigfoot, but I didn't really know what it was. I was probably shocked anyway, so I didn't really know what I was looking at. But after about 10 seconds of watching each other, it just quickly turned around and started walking swiftly up into the woods. And then I lost sight of it. So I didn't know what to think. So, look, this is 1981,
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'm going to go make a report. I'm going to go call the cops and see what's going on. If they, maybe this, whatever this thing is, I don't want anybody getting hurt or anything. And I walked up in my car and turned around, went back into town, found the telephone right by the bar there by the river, called the Sykesville Police Department. The woman answered the phone. I told her what I saw. She didn't really say much of anything. I don't even know what I told her. I don't know if I told her it was a Bigfoot or a hairy man or what it was. But she told me, well, I want you to go back. And I'm thinking to myself, why do I want to go back up there? Go back. We'll have a police officer meet you there. Okay. So I figured I'm going to have to drive. And it was only like a 4-minute drive. I was going to have to go back there and sit around waiting for a cop and watching behind my back, make sure nothing snuck up on me. But by the time I got back there was a Maryland State police officer already at the location with one of those old wooden trestles they used to use and it's a narrow road, so it didn't take much to block the road off.
Oh, wow.
Pulled up to him. He motioned me, roll the window down. And I told him, I made a report of seeing something walking around out here while I was fishing. He said, all he did was look at me and say, turn around and go back home.
Whoa.
I made the report. I was told to come here and meet the officer. He said, I don't care. You got to leave.
Wow.
I did. So I got, I turned around and went back home, and I lived right in Sykesville. So about an hour later, I decided, well, look, I'm going back up there. I'm going to see what's going on, because it really piqued my interest now. So I drove back River Road, and man, I tell you, there were cars everywhere. I literally had to walk about a quarter mile after I parked my car to get to the location because there's so many cars there. So when I got to the area where the barrier had been put, there was a Howard County police officer standing there. There was a couple other people standing around. So I kind of nonchalantly went up to the cop and said, look, what's going on? I'm trying to drive through here to go to Marysville. He said, you're going to go turn around and go up 32. I said, well, what's going on? He said, he started laughing. He said, somebody said they saw a Bigfoot. I said, okay. And I don't even know if I told anybody that.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm looking around, and they've got handlers with dogs walking in and out of the woods. They had a big old white tent set up there where this thing had been across the river. There were vehicles from every jurisdiction in that area. I mean, every police officer, every police jurisdiction was there. Sheriffs, county cops, state police, and the feds were there because there were two black Wagoneers sitting there as well. I heard a helicopter, didn't see one, but I heard nearby. So I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? So I thought to myself, then I saw the cop that I had originally talked to, and he was walking around, and I thought to myself, I don't want to even talk to this guy.
Yeah.
So I turned around and started walking back to my car. So I got back home, and I started calling the network TV stations in Baltimore. There were 3 of them at the time. I called each one of them. And the news editors, the people I talked to, were very interested. They wanted to know what was going on. They said, well, we'll give you a call back. We'll find out more. We'll give you a call back and interview. Okay. Well, about a week later, nobody had called me. So I'm starting to wonder what's going on. I had driven back to the area a couple of times, and, nothing was really there. I mean, they didn't leave any debris or anything. So I called WMAR, which was one of the news stations in Baltimore. I got on the phone with the news editor. I told him, I said, look, I don't know if I talked to you originally, but I had called after I had what I believed to be a Bigfoot sighting out on the Patapsco River near Sykesville. And he said, I can't talk to you, and hung up on me.
Wow.
And then I thought, well, something's going on. Well, as the years went by, I was just kind of left in limbo. I really didn't know what was going on, what had happened. Years later, after doing a lot of inquiries and talking to witnesses, there had been about 7 years prior to that, there had been what they called the Sykesville monster incidents outside of Sykesville.
Yeah.
And this creature was going in and out of people's homes, raiding chicken pens and getting into people's garages. And, so the people who lived down in that area were African-American. There was a couple of families that lived down there. And I actually worked with one of the guys who was kind of the patriarch of the area. And he started introducing me to a lot of the people who had encounters or witnessed this thing back then in the early 70s. So that's when I really started getting into the cryptids and the Bigfoot in particular. And I wanted to know what it was. Well, eventually the Baltimore Afro-American newspaper sent a reporter down there. And, kind of put the whole Sykesville monster thing on the map. And when they did a report and did it in the newspaper, it started getting picked up. I knew nothing about this. I had no idea what had happened before until my friend told me and a couple other people had told me. But I did a lot.
We have a minute left. Just want to say we have a minute left. Okay.
And I did, I talked to a lot of people, got a lot of information. Eventually, I talked to a couple of the police officers who had been there that day. They verified everything that I had seen. So, to this day, I really don't know what had happened. I do know that someone had made a report of seeing a Bigfoot about 3 hours prior to my sighting or at my encounter. And, but I still don't know why everybody was called out. A lot of government buildings and facilities in the area. Who knows what it was, but it's still a mystery.
What an incredible story. Unfortunately, we have to leave it there. Once again, folks, please go out and visit phantomsandmonsters.com. Listen to Phantoms and Monsters Radio. Lon, thank you so very much. That was great. I really appreciate this. And we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be talking about Gettysburg. Make sure you join me and have a good night.